Welcome to the Olive Shoots Family Podcast, where we talk about family and parenting, homesteading, and the things God is leading us towards. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Brittany. We've been married for 3 years, have one little boy, and just got our first piece of land where we plan to build and start our homestead. We are passionate about the family unit and getting back to the basics of the way God created us to live. We have big dreams and are learning what it looks like to pursue those dreams while first trusting God's leading.
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. So we're just going to jump right into this one this week because this episode, it's not really super planned out. We didn't really talk a whole lot about this episode just because we're in a crazy season of our lives. And so we just wanted to share kind of what God has been doing in us over the last months to a year or so. I know we've kind of talked about it a little bit before, but also just to talk about how we've been preparing for our second kid and just what some of the things that we've been doing to prepare for labor and birth and everything. So I guess the first thing to talk about is that I've had a job change. So I'm no longer doing construction. So that means I have to re-record like half of the ad spots that we've recorded so far. Because I'm not in construction anymore. My back still does hurt, so sometimes I still use Earthly products and fully endorse them still. But so that's been exciting for us of just getting a different job and just how it came to be. And it was pretty cool because it kind of came out of nowhere. Like one day, Britt's dad gave me a call and just like, hey, this came across my path and like just wanted to let you know about it. And then within the month I had started the job. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. And I think we had been we've kind of shared a little bit of just our transition to where we're living now and Nathan like stepping out of pastoral ministry. And ever since then, we've kind of known that the job he was doing, the construction, was kind of temporary, but we didn't know like that deadline, like what the temporary was. Like we didn't have a set, it's only this amount of months, but we knew that it wasn't like long term. Mm-hmm. And so we had definitely had several conversations over the past, for sure, 6 months, but probably even since we moved, was just like, okay, well, when do we start when are you going to start looking for a job again? What, but neither of us had really felt, I don't know, you definitely hadn't started like the full-on job search again like we had last fall.
Right.
And I think we had a conversation recently of like, we might be getting close to like you looking again and starting to be more actively searching instead of just, randomly browsing every once in a while. Well, we definitely weren't there yet. And so, when this came up, it was like kind of out of the blue and also not at the same time.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it was something that we like were ready for and like knew was coming soon, but also you weren't in the middle of actively seeking it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when I have just been reflecting on this and just thinking about this transition from over the last year of like pastoral ministry to this new job and just kind of our current life and everything that's going on for us, it really feels similar to like I just kept thinking about like the story of Abraham, like when God first called him to leave the land that he grew up in and start walking and start going to the journeying to what would become the promised land. And I just kept thinking about like it felt like that for us, that we knew God was calling us to something, but we had no idea the specifics and we had no idea what it would look like or how it would play out. We just knew this was something that the Lord was leading us to. And we, like we've talked about with like family mission and vision and things like that, like we had an idea of what that was going to look like, but those those things were more about, we had an idea of what our family was going to look like and how our family was going to function, and less about the job that I was going to have, how we were going to provide for ourselves, where we were going to, like, all of those kind of things. And so it very much so felt like okay, Lord, we're just going to trust you in this moment. And then the big decision to move to where we are, like we made that decision, and it was like, even that decision was like this monumental thing of like, okay, we're stepping out in faith.
And for me, it wasn't like some random place we'd never been before. So it wasn't like Abraham in that sense of like, go to, the middle, I don't know, some random state you've never ever been to, and that's where you're going to live. It wasn't out of our comfort zone in that sense, but it definitely was. I mean, it was more so for Nathan than me, but it definitely was in the sense of like what you're talking about, just providing and knowing what the actual answer was. We were kind of just taking that step, trusting that the next step was going to be provided for and that God was going to tell us the next step. And it was really uncomfortable, even for me, even though that it was comfortable where we were going. It was uncomfortable because we really didn't know anything next. We didn't know the next step. We didn't know what your job was going to be in a year. We just knew that the job you have now, that you had at that moment, wasn't going to sustain us for super long.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely been a year of like learning to trust and also learning to trust whenever when we can't see it all.
Right.
I think it's been the first time, like, probably in a while probably in my adult life, but like since I, went to college, that I didn't know the exact next step. And for sure in our marriage, because, in our marriage, it was the first step that we took that we weren't already comfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And, I think with like, it wasn't just like some completely random place for us, but it was very much so making that decision in the first place. It was a difficult decision. I think there was a lot to that, but part of the reason was that mission and vision of our family, what we wanted our family to look like, and a big part of that was Britt staying home, and we wanted to keep her at home, and that has been something that was like, we felt like that was the best decision for our family, and we felt like not only that, but we felt like that's what the Lord was leading her to do for our family. And I know that not every mom feels the same thing and is not led in the same way. But for us, we just felt like that's really what God was calling her to do and calling her to be is to be a homemaker and stay-at-home mom. And, just the honest, completely vulnerable and honest with you guys of like, it was difficult to pay the bills every month, and we struggled with that for a long time. And so even moving to where we are now, like, that was still a thing. Like we were struggling to make ends meet, and it was one of those things where we moved here knowing that was going to be the case of like, we're kind of on the clock here. And I think when we were first talking about it, we gave ourselves a year to like try to make things work and try to figure out other things for us.
Yeah, we felt like we were going backwards, like from paycheck to paycheck each month, but we knew from how much we had savings wise from my previous years of teaching that we were good. Like, we weren't going to be going in major debt or anything. Right. So like when we say we were struggling to make ends meet, we weren't going into debt. We were just not moving forward with our money. We were continually moving backwards.
We were eating our savings.
Yeah, which is what we said. We'll kind of give ourselves a year, and then we're going to have to do something else because we don't want to just use all of our savings.
Yeah. And so because that was the situation we're in, even though from the very beginning we gave ourselves a year, and that was going to be kind of like our I don't know, like our breaking point, our tipping point of like, this is the final cutoff. If we can't make something happen within a year, then it's like I go into
something you might not
something
wanna
I
do.
have to absolutely have to do, whatever that is. And
Which is crazy because that year, I mean, like we didn't move here till October, but your other one ended like your job before we moved ended like middle of September, and so you just started this job like the beginning of like it's right at a year,
right,
and we didn't like we said we weren't seeking it out. It's just cool.
Yeah, it's very close to a year, but I also think because our timeline was like, okay, we have a year to make things happen. Like our mindset wasn't just, oh well, we still have time. It was like every time we felt the pressure of, okay, we need more money. Like we need to, our finances aren't checking out. We felt the pressure of that situation, and it was almost like I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, we've definitely had several of those moments over the past, I mean, probably just this year mostly of feeling that weight and saying, and just having those deep, difficult conversations of like, okay, we got to do something, and then like we'll just sit there for that night or that couple of days, and we're just spinning everything, and you'll come up with whatever ideas of things we can try on our own, and then we're like, okay, well all that costs money too, and it's just been a back and forth of like, okay, well then we come back to we're trusting God, we haven't made it to that time yet, like I'm just gonna keep working harder, and I'll extend my hours at what I'm doing. There's a lot of those types of things, and then even at the beginning of this summer, the opportunity of you getting to help mow and make extra money in addition to what you were doing, like even that was a blessing because it tied us over just a few more months, and you were able to make a little bit more money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess it was just a couple months, but it was like, okay, we know this isn't long term either, but it's something to get us through the summer, and so it was definitely a lot of those back and forth of trying to find the balance of trusting what God was calling us to, but also not just sitting back and not doing anything, because we know that we're not supposed to just like, which you weren't not doing anything, but I mean in the sense of like, we were trying to figure out when do we take that next step? What is that step? Do we step out and try one of these ideas we have, or are we supposed to just keep trusting God and He's gonna provide? And that was a tough balance, and I don't know that we knew that we were doing the right thing all the time, but when this one came up, it's like, this is what we were supposed to wait for.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to go seek it out. We didn't have to go come up with this grand idea on our own. Like it worked out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what, looking back on this, like if there is any lesson for us to have learned, it's like, man, we can spin our wheels, we can spin our mind just trying to figure out what to do and how to do it.
And I think there's wisdom in that.
And I think not to do nothing, but I think the lesson in that was, it was good for us to think through these things. It was good for us to sit down and try to come up with ideas of what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it, and the time frame of it all. Like, it was good things for us to do something. But after every single one of those, we would think on it for a week, and we would pray about it, and we would be like, this isn't it. Mm-hmm. And so we would start again. And in the moment, like, it's hard to not think of those things as failures, or not think of those things as like, man, I just wasted a week, or I just wasted this time, or it's been 6 months and we still don't have something figured out, and just like in the middle of those moments, if you don't have things nailed down and you're feeling the weight of needing to do something, then that leads to stress and pressure and, worry and all those things. But returning back to, okay, Lord, we trust you, and right now it is really hard to trust you. It's really hard to trust you because we've given ourselves a year, and that year is ticking down, and it's ticking down pretty quickly.
And we don't know what's next.
And we don't know what's next, and it feels like we're not going to be able to make it. But having been on the other side of that now, like we have, like it's here. What we've been waiting for is here, of like just God's goodness to give us what we needed in those moments to tide us over to this.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like the trust that he has been developing in us for him. It's just like those are the kind of things that you have to go through in order to build that trust and that deeper faith with Jesus.
Yeah. And just the timing of all of it, like we can, it's, you hear all the time, it's a lot easier to pause and look back on the blessings after you've just received a blessing, and to recognize the blessings that have been there that you'd missed,
mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. So like when this prayer got answered and you have a new job that's more consistent and making a little bit more money, then that blessing, then we can look back and say, okay, well, no, God didn't leave us this whole time. Like the mowing that was horrible in the middle of the summer and it was 1,000,000 degrees was more money and more relationships and then the ability to learn all the skills that you learned in construction. We said that over and over, like that's gonna go a long ways. That was so beneficial, and it's something that you're gonna be able to use for our homestead and for our dreams. But like now, the job that you are stepping into now, it's like perfect timing for our second kid, of just more stability and just more things that will be beneficial in this stage of our life. And it just all worked out, and it's easier to do that. So like whenever it happens.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, there'll be something, there's always something, there's going to be a doubt or a question or okay, what do we do in this, God? Like there already are those other questions in our life in other areas. And so it's just that reminder, even to us, of like, there's probably always going to be something that we don't have an answer to, but when we do trust God in that, he will come through eventually, whether it's in 5 years or 1 year or 20 years or more than that, or we never even see the answer. But when that answer comes, just remembering this and remembering the times that he has, and that we will see the benefit of all the stuff we went through.
Yeah.
It almost makes you like, we should have that mindset the whole time. Like, why do we wait until the answer comes to be like, and I think we definitely went back to that over the year. We were like, no, we know God's doing something good. We know that his way is best.
Well, I think that's what God had for his people when he told them set up Ebenezer's.
Yeah.
And we, we've done that a little bit. I think that's definitely something like we could get better at, of like intentionally making something or intentionally doing something. And we have that in some things, like
setting up an actual visual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's kind of what God was getting at. And I don't know, even in other aspects, I think of like, I left pastoral ministry. I left teaching. I love teaching. That's like one of the things I'm super passionate about. I love teaching the Bible.
I'm really good at. I'll say it for you.
Thank you. And so that was one of the more difficult things to leave as well, because I enjoy doing it. I like doing it. I'm passionate about it. That was one of the, like, the top 5 things that was hard to leave. And a week or two ago, I was able to teach again on a Sunday morning, and I don't know if I will ever get asked to teach again. And if I don't know if the Lord will ever lead me back to that. And I think I've just looking back over this last year of like, if he never leads me back to teaching a sermon, then okay. And as hard as that is, like, as difficult as that would be, because I love it and I'm passionate about it, that's okay. And to just trust in whatever place he is leading me, and to just trust in whatever direction he is leading. And I just think that idea of like, God is calling you to something. He is leading you in a direction. Like, you listening to this right now, God is leading you in a direction right now. And he may be leading you in a different direction than you thought that you had for your life. But he's good and he's trustworthy. And that's just been something that we've gone back to over and over this last year of like, okay, we know God's character is good. We know he is trustworthy. So now it's on us. Like, we know those things about God. So what are we going to do about it? Are we going to put our trust in the one who is trustworthy? Or are we going to try to take it into our own hands and make things happen? And again, not that we do nothing, but
yeah, it's a balance for sure.
It is. But just to rest in God's character and rest in his goodness and trust that what he guides us and leads us to is actually what is best for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's better than anything we could come up with. Like your work situation right now is better than all those ideas that we spun around in our head for this time right now.
Yes.
Not that we're never going to try to pursue any of those ideas. I think some of them are still our dreams that maybe we'll get to do sometime, but none of those like work hours or any of that would have been as good for us in this season that we're about to enter as what you have right now.
Yeah. I work in construction, and it's pretty regular that I ache and hurt after a long day's work. But I also want a healthy and natural solution to my pain without the long-term side effects that come from over-the-counter pills. I've been turning to Earthly's Pain Potion for day-to-day relief. Its pain-relieving and anti-inflammatory herb combination have helped me to start my day after waking up sore and to rest after lifting heavy objects all day long. When I need extra or more targeted relief, I use Earthly's Pain Relief Rub with St. John's wort, yarrow, and full-spectrum CBD. Just rub a small amount of the cream on the painful areas for fast soothing and quick relief. The Pain Relief Rub is also safe for pregnant and breastfeeding mothers, as well as children ages 1 and up. I recommend both the Pain Potion and the Pain Relief Rub because they help me get back to my work when I need it most, but also because they are made by a family-owned, made in the USA, and organic company. If you are interested, click the link in the show notes and check out other Earthly Wellness products while you're there. Yes, the link does help support our family. Earthly is generous enough to give a small percentage back to us if you use our link. But I wouldn't be endorsing them if I didn't truly believe in their products. Yeah, exactly. Because we're about to have our second little kid.
Yeah.
And it's getting real close. And maybe even like closer than what we think. Like maybe even like closer than what we're ready for. So, yeah, just how have you felt these last few weeks, months leading up to baby number 2?
Yeah, I think it's definitely been a lot of up and down emotions, and just like obviously we've been super excited and are super excited, but I think as it's gotten closer, it's been just the rethinking labor and delivery, and how like, oh, we're getting closer to that great time. And it is a great time when the baby comes. But the part leading up to that is definitely very, very difficult. And then I think in addition to that, it's just been like we've talked about our oldest a whole lot and how he's in toddlerhood, and so that's been a whole new adjustment. And then I get to thinking like, oh, 2 kids, and one's a toddler, and one's, the most independent, or no, the opposite of that, the most dependent on me that they will ever be, and as a newborn, and at the same time. And so it's just been that overwhelming, I don't know, like thinking through my days and how am I going to do this. And so I think that, yeah. But then also going back to, obviously, we're super excited and we can't wait to watch our oldest be a big brother and all that stuff. And then also just, I think in the past, probably just 2 weeks, we've really started, maybe a month, really started trying to prepare my mind and prepare ourselves for labor. And whereas with our first, we were doing that from like 3 months pregnant, maybe not quite that early, but definitely earlier than this time. I think you were like, we should probably start doing something to get ready.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Last time we were totally clueless, right? Your first, you have no idea what's going to happen. So we felt more prepared going into this one, of like, we have an idea of what's going to happen. We have an idea of what's going to take place. But then about a month or 2 ago, we're like, we haven't done anything.
Yeah.
And also, we weren't as prepared as we would have liked to have been last time around. So we need to do things a little bit differently. And so, it was kind of like not a panic moment, but like oh no, we actually need to do stuff now.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've gotten, some diapers and some clothes. We had a baby shower, and we've gotten a little section in our room kind of getting ready. So that has definitely, ever since we made a name sign for our first, and so we did that for this one probably a month ago, I'd say.
Yeah.
And it's been hanging up in our room, and I think ever since that, it's been like even more of a reminder of prayer. Obviously, I'm feeling her move constantly.
I think that's one of those like Ebenezer things.
But the sign is like prayer, and then it's like when we go to sleep, it's one of the last things we're kind of seeing in our room, and then when we wake up, and it's just that anticipation and that reminder of like preparing my mind and preparing, honestly, you preparing your mind too as support. And I think that was the first, like, not that we weren't excited, but that was the first, like, oh, it's getting closer, like it's becoming more real. And then even now in the past week, it's like, oh yeah, we're in the time that it could, like, if she decides to come early, like, we're not really that early anymore. Like it could be a month still away, or she could come in a week and a half or 2. And that's like, I think that was another like, oh, well, we're still not ready. Yeah. And so, yeah, we've been doing a course, I guess, together. Like
an online course.
Yeah, to refresh our minds, and also to get some new ideas. I think one thing we realized is that we were super prepared last time. We felt like knowledge-wise before we went into it. But then when we got there, like, looking back, I think this is something I just recognized, honestly. Looking back, we're like, we didn't really try anything that we, like, knew to do. Like, I was in labor for an insane amount of time at the hospital. Like, more than 12 hours, and we didn't really do much of the things that we were like much of the, because I'm saying I had my first one naturally, and so we had we brought a diffuser, and we were gonna do these different positions, and we never plugged in the diffuser.
Didn't put any water in the diffuser. We did have
music on, but we didn't really, I don't know, it was just like fight or flight mode, I think, pretty much the whole time for both of us. And that's something we definitely don't want in this next one, whether I get to do it like we also realize we might not go how we want it to anyways. But whether it's I am able to do it naturally or something else has to happen, we don't want to be in fight or flight mode the whole time.
Yeah.
And so I think that we're trying to prepare mentally more, and not just knowledge-wise, and making sure we're actually like practicing some of the knowledge things instead of just filling up with a bunch of knowledge and then forgetting all of it when the time comes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that has stood out to me the most after going through that course, I say after, we're still in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that has stood out the most is just how interconnected the mind and the body are during that labor process, and how not even just like emotionally or we think of like wisdom and knowledge, like spiritually, like those things are very much so connected, but also physically, just the way the body was designed by God. Like it's some of the things that we've been learning are just amazing, of just how as a woman's body prepares for delivery, like her mind is releasing chemicals and oxytocin and all these different things, and the way that you react in labor, of like if you are able to perceive the things going on in your body, with your body, going on around you as like positive things that are leading to a good thing. They're hard for sure. They're, and I don't know that, but I've seen.
You've experienced it through me.
And it's hard for sure, but if you're able to wrap your mind around, my body is working towards bringing our baby into this world, versus like if you begin to see things as like, I don't know if I can do this any longer, this is becoming unbearable, I don't know if my body can handle it. Like if you start thinking those thoughts, just how interconnected your mind is with your body, and there's like a feedback loop where if you're thinking positive things, then it actually produces chemicals in your mind that help your body to process what's going on and like lead you back into a better mind space, versus like if you're struggling mentally, then it produces adrenaline and makes your heart beat faster and makes your thoughts race and
could make labor slow down, or like, it's crazy how it's not crazy, it's miraculous how it's all designed, and it's been really cool. Like obviously growing a child is all a miracle, and birthing a child is a miracle, but when you understand like how intricate each of those things, like in the baby's growth in your womb, in addition to how your body really was created to birth a child, it's like, man, God is like so cool, and also so intentional in how he made us and how he makes our kids, and it's just like, it's been really cool. And also like you said, just that, and she's talked a lot about the difference in that. She didn't call it fight or flight, but it's essentially the fight or flight mode versus I think it's like the trust, relax, allow cycle or something. Is that what it is?
Something like that.
And so it's been definitely something that I think will be very beneficial, and us going through it together, because it's not like you will be a huge support in making sure that we actually accomplish the things that we set out to do. Like in keeping my mind in the right space, that's really difficult to do on my own, obviously, in the moment. And so watching these videos together will be like, as much as I know, so you're going to be like, hey, bringing me back to the space whenever I'm like losing it or whatever.
Well, I mean, just like tying this whole episode together, I think that's kind of what we've experienced this past year, and that's what we're trying to carry into this next season of our life, of like, we know the character of God, we know that he's trustworthy, we know that he designed your body in this particular way for you to be able to do this particular thing. Like, the knowledge is there. The understanding of who God is there. It's just being in those moments to be able to take that knowledge of like when you're exhausted, being able to look at that and be like, I know this is hard, but God created you for this. You were made for this. You can do this. He is good and he is trustworthy and he is faithful to you and he's going to see you through. And just being able to like, my role in that moment as like your support is like just to get you to see what God has already proved in our lives.
Yeah.
And just that he is good to see us through even when we can't see, 2 hours down the road, a year down the road, 10 years down the road, whatever that looks like for you guys. It's just, he's good and he's faithful, and it's taking that truth and applying it to the little moments day by day, or the massive moments like delivery, but those consistent daily thoughts. The scripture says, take your thoughts captive, of like those consistent daily thoughts of, no, I know who my God is. I know who I serve. And in this moment, I'm going to be faithful to the fact that he is seeing me through to whatever that might be.
Yeah, so that's a little life update for a job, and then just like how we've been preparing for baby number 2, and we hope that in some way this was helpful, even if you do not have a job change right now, or you're not having another kid.
So probably most of you, but
still like the truth of just like what you just said in summary of trusting that God's plan is best even when we can't see it. I think that's something we can all lean into on a daily basis in whatever we're going through. So we hope this was helpful, and we will catch you next week.
See you guys.